All right, welcome to today's class on Dotloop 201. So we will be starting today's class in the Dotloop system. All right, so if you haven't gone into Dotloop too often, there are two main ways to go into your Dotloop account. The main way that you'll want to go into your Dotloop account is actually by going to your mykw.kw.com account. Okay, and that's where I am right here. And you'll want to go ahead and click on where it says Start My Transactions. So that blue link right under My Transactions. So you'll see in here Dotloop referred to as both Dotloop and My Transactions. Okay, so in this My KW home screen here, again, you'll just want to click Start My Transactions to access your Dotloop home screen right away. Now, of course, you can access your Dotloop account from dotloop.com directly. All right, but the My KW home screen, if you take it from there, it always does take you into the correct Dotloop account without having to put in your Dotloop username and passwords. I know there's enough usernames and passwords for all of your technology, so one less to remember doesn't hurt. There's also a Dotloop mobile app for iPhone and Android users, so if you have a tablet or want to go ahead and put that app on your phone, you can go to your app store, search Dotloop, and it'll pull up that right away for you to download. Okay, that's great for your tablet. I'll give you just a second here so you can catch up. If you're following along in today's class, we will want to go ahead and access your Dotloop account to kick this off. All right, and while you're going ahead and pulling that up, I just want to explain some key fundamental things you need to know about your Dotloop account. So what your Dotloop account is where you're going to put all of your online files. It's kind of like an online filing cabinet. All right, so you're going to have access to all of your online forms in your Dotloop account, and it's a place where you can go to get your forms electronically signed. All right, so you're going to have a loop or an online file per property that you sell. So for example, if you are representing a client who is selling a home with you and then buying the next home, that is going to be two different loops because it's two different properties, two different transactions, okay? So that is the main thing that you need to know in order to utilize Dotloop properly. All right, so a couple things I want to point out. So first of all, let's take a look at our Dotloop homepage view. So this isn't something I cover in the Dotloop 101 class, and is important to know. So there's two main ways that you can view your Dotloop homepage. So what you're looking at on my screen is the Dotloop grid view. All right, the other view that you can use in your account is the list view. So you'll notice on the very top right of your screen, directly under the black toolbar, there's kind of a white toolbar with a red dot on the right-hand side. Now, if you're not seeing this white toolbar at all with this red dot I'm referring to, that most likely means you haven't created a loop quite yet in your account, so no worries, that's normal. All right, so if you like this grid view here, you'll go ahead and click on this big plus sign right here to create a loop, but let me show you the other view. Okay, the other view I actually like better, and I'll tell you why. So if you click on the dot on the very top right, that red dot, it'll switch you over to the list view. Okay, and you can easily toggle back and forth just by clicking that dot one more time. All right, so what you're looking at now is the list view. The reason I like this list view is because it shows all of your loops, of course, in a list, but it gives you this search option at the top of all of your loops. Okay, this red bar right here is a search option. Now, if you don't already, you're going to be having tons of loops because you're going to be selling tons of properties. So with that many loops, it becomes nice to be able to search for the loop that you're looking for, to be able to access that information quickly. All right, so I really like this search option here. Other things I really like about this, let's take a look at the two options that you see under the loop address or the loop name. You'll see that you have a status. You can update the status here. All right, so if you have not already, you can go ahead and click on that first option with the drop down and change that to whether it's a purchase or a listing for sale or so forth here. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to listing for sale. And once I change that next option, I have the option to change the second one. Okay, the second drop down will give me the option to change whether it's an active listing, or what I want to point out to you guys that's particularly useful in organizing your Dotloop homepage is this sold and archived option, okay? So typically you don't need to be looking at your sold loops, right? Especially after you get so many, all your loops start to crowd up your Dotloop homepage. It's a little overwhelming and unorganized. All right, I like to have my loops organized so I can quickly find what I want. So what you can do, you can change the second dropdown. And again, you'll have to change the first dropdown first, and then you'll have the option to change the second one. Okay, trips people up sometimes. So you can change that second dropdown to, let's say, sold. All right. So in order to make your sold loops not display anymore, what you're going to want to do is come up to this filter option on this top white toolbar again. Again, that's directly under the black toolbar. So go ahead and click on that filter option there. And I want you to direct your attention to the center column in these filters. All right, so that will show you the different statuses for your loops. So as you can see, it gives you a bunch of different options, including that sold option that we just changed that loop to. So let's say I want to see all of my active loops. So I probably want to see the ones that don't have a status in case I forgot to change that. My private listings, active listings, under contract. Okay, if you want to select least. All right, so you can go through and select up to 9, I believe. All right, but I'm going to leave the sold and the archived option unchecked. Okay, because I typically don't need to see my sold options or my sold loops every day. And archived, we'll talk a bit more about that in a second. Okay, those are maybe your practice loops or your loops that you want to put in the trash. And all I need to do is click this big red filter option, that big red filter button on the right side. And that will make all of your sold loops disappear because we don't need to see that. Now, as I mentioned, that archived option, okay, you can't delete anything in the system, guys. So you can't delete any forms, you can't delete loops, okay, but you can archive them, so you don't have to look at them. It's a good thing that you can't delete things, okay, so that you can always access it. So don't worry if you ever can't find a loop, it's there, and I'll show you how to get that back. But you can simply come in here, and as long as you change this first dropdown, right, I mentioned you have to change the first dropdown first, and then you're able to change the second one to archived. Okay, so again, archiving loops may be practice loops or loops that didn't go through or you accidentally created. All right, you can always archive that loop to get rid of it. And again, to archive it, to make it go away, we just have to go to filter on the top white toolbar and that big red filter button again to make that archive disappear. So hopefully you have a better grasp here on how to organize your Dotloop homepage here. Now, a question that we get quite often, okay, get frantic calls like, oh my gosh, I created a loop, I am so far in the transaction and it's gone. It's no longer in my Dotloop account. Okay, that is very alarming. But again, you cannot delete it. So it is still there. So let me show you. If you ever lose a loop, this is what you'll want to do to get that back. So first thing is we click on that filter option on the top white toolbar like we've been doing. All we need to do from filter is click clear all on the right hand side. Okay, so I click clear all on the right hand side and that will clear out all my filters. And then I can simply click filter, this big red button on the right hand side, to make all my loops pop back up. Okay, that is a really great thing to note, you guys, even if you don't feel like you need to know that right now. Down the road when you run into this issue, you will be thanking yourself for writing that down. Okay, so that is a great way to pull up all of your loops. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into the steak and potatoes of your Dotloop account, all right, and create a practice loop. Now, since, again, I personally prefer this Dotloop view that I'm looking at on my home screen. If you prefer the other grid view, no worries. Go ahead and switch on over if you prefer the other one. It's totally up to you. But from this view is where I'm going to teach class, and I'm going to click Create a Loop to go ahead and start my practice loop for today's class. Now, if you are doing today's class in the grid view, all right, you would just click that big plus sign on your screen to start a new loop. So again, I'm going to click create a loop right here on this red bar to pull up the box that allows me to name my loop. So if at all possible, guys, go ahead and name the loop, the property address. Sorry about that. Name it the property address if at all possible. So if you want to go ahead and name it 123 Practice Loop, 123 Main Street, or maybe your home address, go ahead and let's put something in here. All right, you'll notice when you start typing in a property address, it might start suggesting different options under it. Okay, why it does that, you'll notice it might either say Google as the source or Dotloop as the source. Now the reason it does that, if you are the buying agent putting in a listing or an offer on a listing, okay, you might see that the source is Dotloop and you might see who the listing agent is. And if that is the listing agent that you are making an offer on and you select that from the drop down here, all right, it'll kind of link your loops up in a sense, okay? They won't be able to see anything in your loop, but when you make an offer on that property, it'll go directly into that listing agent's loop, okay? So for the most part, if that's overwhelming or confusing, you don't have to select any of these options. I just want to let you know why that's there. All right, so in short, I would just go ahead and write in the property address. And I also want to point out the selected template option right under the property address or the loop name. Now, your templates, if you have templates, and you might not, this is added in by your office, so yours will look a little different than mine is on my screen here. All right, so this right here, if you were to select one of these templates, it can be highly helpful though, because it'll bring in all the forms that you need to initially get started on, let's say, your listing loop. Or your sales loop. All right, so this can be a good tool to play around with. I'm going to teach today's class without a template, but keep an eye on that, okay? That can be a really helpful tool for you guys. And let's go ahead and click Create Loop on the bottom right. All right, so I clicked Create Loop, and that takes me right into my loop here. All right, so guys, there is 3 main sections in your Dotloop account, and I go into that in detail in the Dotloop 101 class. I just want to overview that quickly for you guys. The 3 main sections is the document section at the very top of your screen, and that is where you'll be working most of your time in this document section. It's where you'll be adding forms, it's where you'll be preparing your forms, sending it to your clients to electronically sign, and so forth. If I scroll down, I'll find the people section at the bottom of my loop here. Okay, and this is where you'll see all the individuals in your loop. So your clients will be listed here. If you've had your mortgage provider, okay, everyone involved in this transaction. You should always see yourself and your admin in your loop off default. Now, just a quick note. Where it says your name, make sure you take note of what your Dotloop email address is. It's really, really important that you know what your Dotloop email address is if an agent on the other side of the transaction is trying to share a form to you. It's important that you give them this email address that you see listed next to your name. Okay, you can't just give them any email address that you have or it'll create an extra Dotloop account for you, which gets really confusing. So make sure you note what your Dotloop email address is so you can give that out when people ask for it. And lastly, this task section on the very bottom there. Okay, so you can create to-do lists for yourself in the system. So for example, if you have a listing and you want to create a to-do list to remind you to put the listing in the MLS, get it professionally measured, put the sign in the yard, put out the lockbox. A million things that you have to do with the listing. All right, and you can create a to-do list on the bottom of your loop here to keep track of all of that. So that's a pretty nifty tool here. All right, but let's scroll up to the very top of your loop now. Okay, and a question that we get quite often is, great, I created a loop. now what do I do? All right, so I do always recommend that everyone starts their loop in this view details section on the very top of your screen. Okay, it's right under the property address or the loop name in this case. So let's go ahead and click on view details on the very top. Okay, it's really important if you're doing something else right now, just go ahead and click the view details section because you'll get lost if you don't go ahead and click that. All right, so one more time, I'm clicking view details on the top of my loop under the property address. All right, and this will take me into a section that will auto-populate all of this information onto every form that I bring into the loop. Okay, so this is a huge time saver, is to enter the property information in this backend. And we're gonna take a look at this. Again, I go into detail on this in the Dotloop 101 class, so I'm gonna go a little faster in today's advanced class just so we can get going on the cooler tips. So if you have any questions, of course, let me know so I can answer those for you or repeat anything I say if I lost you. All right, so first thing I want to go ahead and do is I want to add our people. So in this people section here, all right, again, you'll see yourself and you'll see the admin always. So let's go ahead and click add person on the very top right of this people section to add in our client. Okay. So I clicked on add person on the top right, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the name of my client. Now I need three main things in adding in a client, and if you're practicing with me, feel free to go ahead and put in John Smith or your kid's name, spouse names, okay? Any name you want to put in to go ahead and practice with. All right, so there are three main things that you'll need to add your client, and that is their first and last name, Hermione Granger, of course. All right, their email address. If you want to go ahead and practice with a personal email address that you have, so not your Dotloop email address, which we just looked at, go ahead and put in your personal email address. It's cool to be able to share a form to yourself so you can see what it looks like when your clients receive a form from Dotloop. All right, and the last thing is we need a role. All right, so if you click on the drop down where it says role here, we can go ahead and change that to seller. Okay, I'm going to work on a listing here in today's class. So if you'd like to follow along with me, go ahead and give your client here a seller role. But feel free to use this little gray scroll bar to scroll down and look at all the different roles that Dotloop provides for you. So there's quite a bit that you have available to you. And after looking around, let's go ahead and select seller. Okay, biggest thing to note on this screen here, this add to my team option. Let's talk about that quickly. All right, please, if you're taking notes, please make a note that we never, ever, ever click this checkbox, add to my team, when you are adding a client. Okay, so clicking this add to my team option here, what that will do is it'll make it so that your client or whoever you're adding can see everything in your loop that you can see. All right, and we of course don't want that for our client. The general concept of Dotloop is everything is private until shared. All right, so you really only want your client to see the forms and material that you share with them. So again, make a note that we do not click this checkbox when you're when you're adding your client to the loop. Now this is a really handy tool for certain things. So let's talk about when we would click add to my team. So if you are working on the same side of a transaction with another agent in your office, okay, so you're co-listing a property with another agent in your office, so you're on the same side of the transaction. If you add that agent to your loop and click add to my team, it will put this loop in their Dotloop account as well so they can see everything that you can see. Okay, so it makes it so you guys can both collaborate on the loop together and you can do all the same things from that loop. Okay, so again, that is only if the agent is on the same side of the transaction with you. All right, another time that this is helpful, this add to my team option, if you are on a team and you have an admin on your team that has a Dotloop account, if you click this add to my team option there, it will put your loop in your admin's Dotloop account as well. So he or she can help you with your loop, can help do things for you. All right, so I hope that's clear for everyone on when to use this add to my team feature. Okay, let me know if that's not clear. You can also always email support@scottleroymarketing.com, and I'd be happy to write out any of these instructions for you as well. All right. So again, after that little spiel, just a quick reminder, 3 main things when adding a client is name, email address, and role. And then I can click add to person or add person on the bottom right, that red button there. All right, and you'll see now your client has been added in with the seller role. All right, and we're not going to right now, but if your client had a spouse that needed to be added as well, you would just do the same process. You'd click add person again to add that next client in and continue doing that for all your clients on this loop. All right, so one more thing to do here. Under your name, you should again see your Dotloop email address, which I can't stress enough how important that is to know what that is. And right under your Dotloop email address, you'll see it says none. Let's go ahead and click none, maybe, and change that to listing agent. Okay, so these roles that we're assigning to yourself and your clients are super important if your clients or you are going to electronically sign a form. So your client will not be able to electronically sign a form unless they are assigned a role. So that's how important these roles are right here. All right, if we scroll down a little further, you'll start to see a bunch of information that it prompts you for. Stuff like the property address, financials, contract dates. So feel free to scroll down to see all the different stuff that you can put in. Okay. So what this section does is, again, it auto-populates all of this information onto every single form that you bring in. So talk about a huge time saver. All right, especially if you are a newer agent and you're looking at these forms, like where am I supposed to put all of this information in, right? The forms, especially starting out, are a little overwhelming. They're 10 plus pages, right? And it's hard to know where each item goes, especially starting out. This is kind of like a little cheat sheet, this back end here of this view details section. It straight up prompts you for the information that it needs, and Dotloop knows where on the form to put that information. All right, so this is a great, easy workaround until you get super familiar with your forms. All right, so just so you can see what it looks like when information auto-populates onto your forms, let's simply go to this first section under the people section, so where it says property address. Let's go ahead and just fill in some basic information just so you can see what it looks like when it auto-populates onto your forms. So the street number and the street name field are 2 separate fields there. It trips people up every time, so just look out for that. All right, I'll give you just a second here to put in just some preliminary information, maybe the street number, street name, city, state, and zip if you'd like to. All right, and once you're done doing that, let's go ahead and scroll up to the very top of your account or this page and click Save. All right, so if you're still working on that, no worries, take your time. Keep entering that in, and once you're done, let's scroll up to the very top and click Save on the red toolbar here. Okay, you'll notice this pretty yellow bar that says Save Successful will pop up across the top of your screen. Dotloop always tells you, confirms with you that the save was successful. Okay, it helps me sleep better at night knowing that I saved it and didn't lose all the work I just did. So I do like that bar. And one more thing I want to note in this view details section before we go back to the main loop page here is this upload a photo option. All right, so where it says upload a photo, if you were to click here, I can go ahead and do that to show you what it looks like. It will browse your computer for a photo of the listing. Okay, so let's say you have listing photos taken. All right, and for your client, you add in a photo of the home page. I'm sorry, of the outside of the home. All right, and it's saving, so I'll be able to show you here what it looks like. All right, so that will add a picture of the home that maybe they're buying or selling. Okay, to the top of their loop. Now, Dotloop says if you take a moment to add in a photo of the home that they are buying or selling at the top of your loop here, that they are 5 times more likely to use you again or refer you out because they feel like, wow, this agent made me a customized website to sign my forms on. Okay, so it is a cool tip. If you just go ahead and add in a photo of the house here and click save, it will the client will see that at the top of their loop when they're signing forms. Right? Hey, and if it makes them more likely to use you again and recommend you, it doesn't hurt, right? That took me about 20 seconds to add that in. All right, so just an extra little tip there that's absolutely not necessary, but it's just a fun little customization to do for your clients. All right, and let's go ahead and click back to loop on the very top left of your screen. So we're clicking back to loop on the very top left of your screen here. All right, and just a quick note before we go deeper, because we're going to start adding forms to our loop now. Okay, do make sure that your Dotloop account is this black and red. Okay, it might be a slightly different color, but you do want to see that it says premium on the top left of your account. All right, that will give you access to all of your Market Center forms that you need for the transaction. If your Dotloop account is a light blue or doesn't say premium on the top left, make sure to email support@scottleroymarketing.com so we can make sure that is connected to your Market Center properly. Okay, again, if it is a light blue or doesn't say premium on the top left, email support@scottleroymarketing.com and we can fix that up for you right away. Okay, so let's talk about adding forms and organizing our forms. Okay, so this is not something that we go over in the Dotloop 101 class. It's talking about folders, adding folders in. So when you go through a transaction, there are a lot of forms that go into the beginning of listing a property to selling a property. Okay, and it'll really pay off if you have your loop organized by folders, and the admin in your office will really like you as well if you have your loop organized. So let's talk about folders and how we can best organize our loop here. So starting off here, we have one blank folder that I'll want to rename. Okay, instead of just a generic folder name, I want to rename this to listing folder. So how I would do that is I'm going to go ahead and come over to those 3 drop-down dots on the very far right of the folder name. All right, so anytime you see these 3 drop-down dots, that typically means more options no matter where you are on the internet. Okay, so kind of the universal symbol for more options. So go ahead and click on those 3 drop-down dots and let's go to rename all the way to the right of that folder. All right, you'll notice a cursor starts blinking to the left side of the word folder. So I can rename that to listing folder. Okay, I can just start typing because it's blinking on the left side of folder. Now you can name your folders whatever you'd like to name them. I'm just going to recommend some folder names that really help me stay organized. This is totally up to you. All right, and once you type in your new listing or your new folder name, you can either click enter on your keyboard or you can click in the white margin on your Dotloop account to make that stick. And I know it's stuck now because it's in all bold red and all caps. So that shows me it's stuck. All right, so we have our listing folder. So I'm going to add 2 more folders now. I want to add a sales folder and a closing folder. So to do that, let's go ahead and click Add Folder on the very top right of your document section. All right, it comes up and says new folder with a cursor here. So I can use the arrows on my keyboard to go over to the end of new. So I can erase that, excuse me, and type in the word sales instead. All right, once I type in the word sales, I can either click enter on my keyboard or click the white margin again to make that stick. All right, if you accidentally make it stick and it's not the right word, no worries. You can always go back to the 3 drop-down dots and click rename. And now just for practice sake, let's go ahead and add that third closing folder. Okay, so you can come back to this practice loop and see what it should actually look like for a listing loop. All right, let's click this add folder on the top right. You will be a folder adding pro here. And let's change no to closing folder. Okay, now these are the 3 main folders I would recommend when you have a listing. If you are representing a buyer, of course, you would only have a sales and a closing folder. Now, your market center might recommend a certain policy that they would like to see instead on your folders. Of course, listen to what your market center staff says above what I am recommending here. All right, and I'm going to click in the margin to make this stick. All right, so what I do with these folders, all right, listing folder are great to add the listing agreement, maybe my measurements of the home, the property disclosures signed by the seller, everything going into listing the home. Sales folder, that's great for fully executed documents, like a fully executed offer to purchase, fully executed property disclosures, and so forth. And lastly, closing folder here, that's great for your closing disclosure, if you have a termite letter, anything that goes into the closing of the property. Alrighty then, so let's do something fun like add a form into our loop. So you'll notice it says add document to the right side of each one of these folder names. So as you might have guessed, I'm going to go ahead and click add document to the right of the folder I'd like to add the document to. So I'm going to go ahead and click that add document to the right of the listing folder. If you want to follow along with what I'm doing, feel free. And you'll notice 3 blue boxes display right under it. Okay, this templates option here is where we're going to start. So it says add an interactive form by selecting one from templates. Now when you see the word interactive form, that means that you can type in the form. Okay, so that's what interactive form means. So let's go ahead and click on the first box that says template. Okay, when you click on the first box that says template, it will pull up all of your Market Center forms. Okay, your Market Center staff graciously adds all these forms in for you to your Dotloop account. So your form section here, your templates will look slightly different than mine, and that's okay. That's normal. Okay, I'm working in the Keller Williams Ballantyne area Market Center forms in Charlotte, North Carolina. So your forms and your document folders here will look different, and that's fine. So what you want to do to pull in an interactive document is, let's start with these red form sets on the left-hand side. Okay, so these are form folders that your Market Center adds in for you. You'll notice a little scroll bar in gray that's kind of to the right of these red folders that I'll want to click on and scroll down to find whichever form folder I'm looking for. Now I'm going to be adding a listing agreement here, so if you guys want to go ahead and follow along with me, feel free to go ahead and search for that listing form. All right, so select the form folder in red on the left-hand side that you believe would have the listing form, the listing agreement. So step 1, we click on the left-hand side, the form folder in red. Step 2 here is we're going to go ahead and click on this red search bar at the top of this little box here. All right, now you can search by either the form name or the form number. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type in the word listing to pull up that exclusive right to sell listing agreement. And I'm going to click on the checkbox to the left of whatever form I'd like to go ahead and add. Once I click the checkbox to the left of whatever form I'd like to add, let's go ahead and click Copy. Right, and once I click Copy, it gives me this nice green check mark to know that it did bring the form in, so I can simply click OK on the bottom right. And once I click OK, it'll bring me back to my loop where, boom, there it is, right in my listing folder here. All right, so I do go in detail on how to prepare this form, this listing agreement in the Dotloop 101 class, so feel free to watch that over. I do want to point out some extra cool tips and tricks that I didn't mention on the interactive form, so let's go ahead and pull open that form. So to bring that open, let's simply click on the form name to open that up on your Dotloop account. So simply click on the form name here, and that will open it up in your Dotloop account. Okay, so when you open that up, the first thing you should see is this autofill box. Okay, it's really important that we do not X out of this box when we see this. Okay, this autofill box is what will allow your clients to electronically sign, and it will auto-populate any information onto the form. Okay, so it's a good time saver. Biggest thing to know here. So first of all, we need to make sure our client is listed as seller 1. Okay, that is very important or your client will not be able to electronically sign. So if you do not see your client's name listed next to seller 1, you just need to click where it says select person and choose their name from the drop-down menu. Now, if you were unaware that Hermione Granger had a spouse, for example, okay, your client had a spouse, you could always, at this time, come into Seller 2, click Select Person, and go to Add Person to add in that second client here. Okay, so no worries on that one. And listing agent. If this is a form, so if you're doing a listing agreement and it's a form that you need to sign as well, do make sure that you are listed as the listing agent or you will not be able to electronically sign. Okay, I can't say that enough. Super important for the roles section here. All right, let's go ahead and scroll down. It should have pulled some information from that view details section that we started class in. So you should have the property information auto-populated already. Keep scrolling down to look at all the information that you can type in here. And again, anything you put here will auto-populate onto the form. So scroll to the very bottom of that box and go ahead and click Autofill. On the bottom right, it's a big red button. Alrighty, I clicked Autofill. And it takes me to the form where I see a bunch of yellow fields now. Okay, the reason that you might see some yellow fields here is because that information has auto-populated. So that is what that's showing you. All right, it gives me a little black box right here that tells me two roles have been assigned and 13 fields have been auto-filled. Right, if you ever need to bring that autofill box back up, there's an option to do that on that top black toolbar right there. Okay, that'll bring that autofill box right back up. Okay, so I want to show you some cool tips and tricks of what you can do with this form. I'm not going to walk you through how you go about typing in the form and adding dates and checkboxes and so forth. Again, that's in the Dotloop 101 class. I'm sorry, we just don't have enough time for that, but please feel free to watch Dotloop 101 on slmtraining.com. So in theory, let's say that we have already gone through the entire form and typed in all the fields that we need. And now we need our client to electronically sign it. Now, typically with Dotloop, when you click to share the document, it will send this form to your client's email address so they can click to electronically sign it. Well, let's say you're on a listing appointment and you're sitting right next to your client, filling out this agreement with them, okay, so that you can explain it to them and negotiate your commission and so forth. All right, so they're sitting right next to you. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just pass your tablet or computer over to them so they could electronically sign the form sitting right next to you? That would be cool. So let's look at how you would do that. So once you have gone through and prepared the entire form first, okay, that's important. All the information is in the form before they electronically sign it. You'll simply go to More on the top black toolbar and go to Host in-Person Signing. All right, so if I click on Host in-Person Signing, okay, it'll tell me if I would like to save my changes, so I'm going to go ahead and click Yes. Try not to get ahead of me on this section here. I'll tell you why in just a second. Okay, so don't go any further here. All right, stay here. It'll log you out. So what it's saying now, if you had multiple clients, it would give you the option of which client you'd like to sign. In this case, I just have one client. So if I wanted my client to sign, I would simply click Continue, and then I'd be able to pass the device over to my client to be able to electronically sign it. Now, I need you guys to note something if you do host in-person signing. If I were to click Continue right here, I would give the device over to my client. But what would happen is it will sign you out of your Dotloop account, and it will sign your client in to their new Dotloop account. Okay, so when they hand your device back to you after they're done signing it, okay, you will be in their Dotloop account. So you will need to go back to My KW to relog into your Dotloop account. I just don't want you guys to look like you don't know what's going on in front of your clients. So again, if you do host in-person signing, it does log you out of your Dotloop account, and you will just need to log back in to your Dotloop account after your client is done signing that. All right, so just so you're prepared, as always, in all this, these tips and tricks here, I highly recommend practicing it before trying it out with your client sitting next to you. It always tends to go a lot smoother. All right, so just a quick tip there on that. If you have any questions on that, of course, feel free to email us, and I'm happy to explain that in more detail as well. All right, one more cool trick on here before we continue on to other cool tricks is adding an extra signature field. So let's scroll down. If you don't mind scrolling down to an initial field or signature field. Now I realize that your form looks different than mine. Again, I'm working in North Carolina forms, still the same concept, but if you go down to a field that has initials for your client to sign, typically the form will only have 2 fields for your client to sign. All right, well, that's great and all, but what if I have 3 clients that need to sign the listing agreement? Okay, I want you guys to note that if you come up to this Add field on this top black toolbar, you can click to add initials. So if I need to add an extra set of initials, I can click on Add Initials. Oops. And it will start following my mouse. And I can simply line that initial box up where I want it and click to drop it. Okay, so again, I went up to Add Initials and Add Initials. It will start following my mouse, and I can click to drop that field. Okay. Now there is one extra catch on this. If you were adding a 3rd initial box here, you will need to assign the field manually to your client, okay, for them to be able to electronically sign. So they cannot assign something electronically if it's not assigned to them. So all you would need to do is simply click on the field that you added in and click to assign the field. It will make this assigned to anyone box up here display where you can select that client from the drop-down box if they're already added to your loop, or you can click Add Person on the very bottom to add that person in. Okay, so you would need to add that extra initial box on each page where there are initials. Okay, so it's a little extra legwork, but it is a cool trick, cool tip if you have a 3rd client that needs to sign any forms that only have 2 boxes available. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and click Save. Save on the black toolbar at the top here to save that practice form. Again, it's always good to have these practice forms to come in and practice on. And let's go ahead and click back, this little back arrow. It's kind of hard to see. It's a red back arrow on the left-hand side. And that will take you back to your loop. Again, if you're still on the form, just make sure to click the back arrow. It's red on the top black toolbar, and that will take you back to your loop. All right, so let's talk about the other ways you can add documents. So if you click Add Document to the right of whichever folder that you're working on, all right, what we just did is the templates, okay? So again, those are all of our interactive forms that we can simply start typing in and get them electronically signed. Now let's talk about this next blue box over, the Browse option. Okay, so Dotloop can be used in a variety of different ways, right? So you might run into clients who do not feel comfortable with electronically signing forms. Okay, and you'll run into that, and that's okay. What you can do is you can type up the form in Dotloop, you can print it out, and bring it with you on your appointment so that they can hand sign right next to you. Okay, so now I have these hand signed documents in my hand, and I need to get those into my Dotloop account. Okay, so if you have physical forms in your hand that you need to get into Dotloop, that is what we're going to be talking about next. So step one, we have signed forms in our hands. You would want to scan that to your computer. Okay, so if you have a scanner at your home, or if you have a scanner at your office, okay, there's apps on your phone called Tiny Scanner is a cool one, okay, that you can scan documents as well. All right, so however you manage to scan the document to your computer and save it to your computer, you can then click this Browse option on the center of this screen here. Okay, and again, I found this Browse option by clicking Add Document, just in case I lost anyone. So once I click Browse, the center option here, it will start browsing my computer right away, and I need to look for that scan. Okay, so hopefully you know where that scan is saved on your computer, and you can just look on my screen if you don't have a scan to pull in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and find the scan. I have one in my Downloads folder here, and I now just need to double click on it to pull that right into my loop. Okay, and that will pull it in as a PDF. Okay. Now, just a quick note, guys, Dotloop only accepts PDFs, right? So if you have, what I see a lot is maybe if you take a picture of your earnest money check and you try and put it into Dotloop, it won't pull in. It has to be a PDF. If you ever run into that, if you Google JPEG to PDF converter, there are a bunch of free converters out there that will convert that picture of your earnest money check to a PDF so you can add it to Dotloop. So again, if you just Google JPEG to PDF converter, or you can also email us again at support@scottleroymarketing.com and let us know you need a picture to PDF converter, and we can send that converter over to you right away. All right, so let's talk about editing a PDF. I'm going to go ahead and pull in one other document here to edit that. All right, and what I'm doing right here, I have a file. You can also drag and drop files into here. Okay, so if you feel pretty comfortable with technology and you have your files open and would like to drag and drop into here, just so you know, you see right there, that is an option. Okay, if that blows your mind, don't worry, you don't have to use that at all. Dragging and dropping does make me really happy, so I do like that feature. All right, so start editing this PDF that I just brought in, and feel free to go ahead and just watch on my screen, okay, because I'm going to show you how you can edit a PDF. Now you can simply click on that PDF to open it in your Dotloop account. All right, so what I mean when I say PDF is you'll notice that this form on my screen here, I cannot click to just start typing in it, right? It is not an interactive form like we were looking at the last form we were using. Okay, this is a PDF, meaning it's flat and I can't edit it. Now, typically you have to pay a good amount of money for programs like Adobe to be able to edit PDFs. Now, Dotloop you get for quote unquote free, and you do have the option to edit PDFs right in your account. So you have the option to come up to this Add on the top black toolbar and add different text fields. Right? You can add text, you can add initial boxes, check boxes, strike throughs, signature boxes. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different things you can add to start editing your PDF. And that's great and all, but let's talk about a real life example of when you would use these options, these add fields. Okay, so let's say, so use your imagination here to imagine that this is a fully executed offer to purchase that the client on the other side just sent you and you just added it to your Dotloop account. All right, so fully executed. Now, you guys, your clients have verbally talked and you're going to be changing, let's say, the purchase price slightly. Okay, you verbally talked, so now we just need to edit this PDF to change that information and add the initials, right? Both parties will need to sign in order to verify that change. So let's take a look at that. And again, you can just watch on my screen if you don't have a PDF to practice on. So let's say right here I have my purchase price, and I need to go ahead and strike that through so I can add a new purchase price that my clients have verbally agreed on, and now they want to all sign for that new change. So I can come up to Add on this top black toolbar and click Add Strike Through from that drop down. All right, which is when it'll start following my mouse. Okay, the only time it won't start following your mouse is if you are on a touchscreen computer or a tablet. Okay, but if you click, it will drop that strike through, where I can then come back up to Add, and I can click to Add Text. Now bear with me, and hopefully you're just watching me on my screen here because this is going to be a little speedy. All right, but again, this will be recorded so you can pause it and follow along later. So I'm going to add text here. And I'm going to drop that text box with my mouse. I'm going to click to drop it, where I can just start typing in my new purchase price. So let's say we're going down. Oops. So I'm adding in my new purchase price here. Okay, so I've added both the strike through and the text box here. So now I need my clients to be able to electronically sign for that new change. So I'm going to, as you might have guessed, go back up to Add, click Add Initials. Again, it will start following my mouse unless I'm on a touch screen. And I can click to drop that initial field wherever I'd like it to be beside the change. Now, hopefully you guys are aware now and comfortable with the fact that we need to assign the initial box, right? If they need to be able to electronically sign it, we need to click to assign that field. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I would do next is click on the field, click to assign that field, and assign that to my lovely client, Hermione Granger. All right, I'll see her initials in there, okay, which indicates to me that I set it up correctly. Okay, if I were to print it, her initials would be blank, right? So that just shows me that she can electronically sign, so that's good. So now I'd just be able to save and share that to my clients right away to sign for that change. Okay, so this is a great way to be able to edit documents that are already signed, okay? Because if you try to make changes to a fully executed document, it will erase all signatures. Please make a note to that, okay? Because it thinks your clients did not sign for that. All right, so that is how you can use the PDF editor to add some things to your forms here. Right, to make any changes, it will need to be a PDF before you can make those changes, or again, it will erase all signatures. Okay, making it a PDF makes those changes, makes those signatures stay. Okay, it's a flat PDF. It makes the signatures stay on the bottom, and you can make changes. I hope that's clear to everyone. If it is not, of course, feel free again to email us, and I can absolutely expand on that for you. So for right now, let's go ahead and click back. I just have to show you a few more things before we wrap up class here. So if you can click on back on the top left toolbar, this back button rather, the red arrow on the black toolbar. All right, it'll ask you if you want to save it. You can go ahead and click yes. It might ask you if you want to share the document, and you can click no. Not right now. All right, let's talk about one more way that we can add in forms here to our loop. And this one I like a lot. Okay, so where it says sales folder here, I'm going to go ahead and click add document. Oops, sorry. And we have talked about both the templates and the browse option. Okay, the third and final option that you can add documents is this email option here. Okay, and I'm going to do this kind of quickly, but just watch on my screen here so that you can get a hang of it. And again, you can always come back and watch this when it's recorded, so you can pause it and follow along. All right, so you'll notice that you can attach the files you need to an email and send them directly into this folder. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and click this email option. Now let me explain when you would want to use this option. So let's say there's an agent on the other side. Let's say an Allen Tate agent, and they send you an offer to purchase signed by their clients. So you have an offer to purchase in your emails, it's an email attachment, and you need to quickly get it into your loop here. Okay, so this is by far the most efficient way to get a form, a document from your emails, okay, an attachment in your emails into your loop. This is by far the most efficient way. So what you'll do is you'll click on this email option, that's step one, and it will give you this crazy long Dotloop email address that is specific to this folder in this loop. So I'm going to go ahead and click on copy to clipboard. All right, and it shows me that the email has been copied to clipboard. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull over my email account so you guys can see that. Okay. And I have the email open that the agent on the other side emailed me the offer to purchase. Okay, so the quickest way to now get this into my loop is I simply need to forward this email. So I'm in a Gmail account. Okay, you guys do have a KW Gmail account if you use that for your business. To forward emails, you simply click on the drop-down arrow on the far right of that email that you want to forward and click to forward it. All right, so I'll see that I have some verbiage here, but I also, more importantly, have the PDF attachment of that offer to purchase on this email. So now what I'm going to do is click in the to field. I'm going to right click and paste in. So again, I just clicked paste here, and that pasted in that crazy long email address, right, that we just copied from your Dotloop account. So now all I need to do is click send on the bottom of my email here. All right, it shows me it has been sent. So let's go back to Dotloop to see if that has worked. So I am now back in my loop. All right, and that email, the offer to purchase, it won't just automatically pop up on your screen. You will need to refresh your page in order to see that that has come through. It typically takes about 30 seconds or so to come through. So let's see if it's come through already. So to refresh your page, if you're not familiar with that, that is the arrow in a circle on the, typically on the top left of your browser by the back arrows. Okay, it depends on the browser you're using, but it is a arrow and a circle to reload your page. And once I do that, boom, there it is. Emailed offer to purchase. Okay, so I know that was some quick steps here. Again, if you email support@scottleroymarketing.com, I am absolutely happy to write out those steps so you know how to send a form from your email account directly into your loop. Okay, and again, this class will be recorded and on slmtraining.com, so you can pause it and do it with me. All right, very cool tip. All right, cuts out some middle steps to make that a faster method for you. All right, and the very last thing we're going to do in our class today, and then I will let you guys go free, is let's talk about submitting our loops for review. Okay, so you will need to submit your loop for review to your office staff. Okay, typically, they don't look at your loops unless you submit it for review. So let's talk about how we go about doing that. All right, so on the very top of your screen, okay, you will see it gives you the option to submit for review on the very top right. Okay, and again, submitting for review, that sends it to your office staff. Okay, so that's a submit for review on the very top right of your loop under the black toolbar. From here, you'll be able to decide which folder you'd like to submit for review. So in this case, let's say only my listing folder is ready for review. Okay, I need my office staff to go ahead and compliance check my listing folder. So I can put a check mark next to whichever folder is ready for them to look at. I can select the type on the far right so I can let them know that this is my listing that I'm submitting for review. And lastly here, you can go ahead and put in a reason that you're submitting for review. You don't have to, you can leave that blank, but let's say you're adding a form you were missing, you can let them know that you're adding the property disclosures, okay, if you were missing that. And don't do this right now, but the final step is clicking submit, but please make sure not to click submit on this practice loop so you don't inundate your office staff. They won't like that very much. All right, so this is how you'll submit for review to get your office to take a look at your loop. So for right now, let's X out of it. And lastly, we need to know where to go to submit to green sheet. Okay, I'll explain what a green sheet is in just a moment, but let's find it first. So if you go up to view details on this top of your loop, that's where we started class, right? In this view details section on the top of your loop, so view details on the top of your loop under the property address here. You'll then see on the top right of your screen, you have the option to submit for review here as well, and submit to green sheet. Okay, so submitting to green sheet tells your office how you want to get paid, if you're splitting the transaction with another agent in your office or so forth. Okay, so you typically cannot get paid without submitting to green sheet, so please make sure you do that. Typically you'll want to submit to green sheet after you have a fully executed offer to purchase, but again, check in with your office to ask them when they want you to submit the green sheet. Okay. All right, so if you run into any error messages when clicking submit to green sheet, that does happen sometimes. Feel free to let us know if you do see that and we can help you fix that. All right, but typically you'll need to have your pop-up blocker off for that submit to green sheet, for your green sheet to pull up. All right, guys, again, I know that was a little faster version of this class, okay? It was the advanced stuff, so if you do want to watch the 101 version and this recorded class, feel free to go to slmtraining.com to watch this again. If you have any questions at all, of course, feel free to email us at support@scottleroymarketing.com. All right, guys, happy looping and happy Friday Eve. Have a good one.